Hello, everybody, and welcome to the fifth episode of Core Office Hours. I am your host, Keone Chong, and I'm here with my co creators and co hosts, Jose Caballer and Mary Gribbin, who's not here today, but she's here in spirit, and hopefully she might join in later. So, as always, we ask that you like and subscribe. We'd love to continue bringing incredible content and how you can work with brands, help strategize for brands, help grow brands, and really be able to lead as a powerful creative thinker and builder in innovative ways. Core, which is
Hi, my name's Jaja. I like to say I will be brand strategist soon. I'm a commercially trained designer, so I have always been worked in, I've been in design and marketing industry for the past 15 years. I was trained in creative agencies for 4 years and had the opportunity to work with some global brands like in the UK. So if anyone from UK, I'm not sure if you heard of Pizza Express, so hospitality brands. So I've been in hospitality sector for the past 10 years, running in-house design team, working closely with marketing director, creating seasonal campaigns, menu launches, and all marketing material from online digital. So yeah, that's me. And I'm a Scorpion, born in November. Um, yeah, so I love cheese and wine, and I like to scuba diving.
oh, awesome. Well, Jaja, thank you for the lovely introduction. Welcome to the community. As we always ask, share Instagrams and socials in the chat. We all connect and we all, share, and we're always checking in on each other. So we'd love for you to join us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Such an honor.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Would anybody else like to drop in? Maybe someone that we haven't heard in a while. Jason, what's going on?
Not too much is going on here. I'm just in today just to listen, getting caught up on some testing for streaming with we're setting up for one of my clients.
Awesome, man. So where are you right now?
I'm just outside of Toronto.
Mm.
Enjoying some lovely warm weather finally.
Nice. Spring is here, right?
Yes, it is.
Are you using brand strategy right now?
As I talked about, I'm sort of working along with my clients and kind of doing it hand in hand as we move forward. My client got let go from a broadcast network, and so doing sort of what he was doing on TV, doing it on Facebook and YouTube now. So we're keeping with his brand and sort of trying to grow it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And I'd love one more person to share. Be awesome if we could get another lady to the stage. Maybe Natasha.
Hi everyone. Right now I am using brand strategy. I am starting up, I guess, my own little web design firm, and I've had a great opportunity working with some solopreneurs and some nonprofits. And so my goal right now is I'm trying to figure out how core and discovery can fit into like a UX design framework, because I really want to be able to merge them and figure out like a systematic way to work through both core and a UX framework into like woven more seamlessly into like my web design projects. Right now, they're kind of like bumping up against each other. So I'm really looking forward to hearing how other people are merging kind of like core discovery into their specific like design industries, like whatever space that they're in.
Got it. Thank you for that, Natasha.
Mhm.
I think it's actually a great question, and we'll see what we can do to make sure that we touch on that in today's conversation. So, um, before we dive into the core Q&A, we just want to remind you that we are preparing for launch. Um, Yesterday, Jose and I powwowed a little bit, and we're going through the um, some of the frameworks that he's used in previous clients, things like UX design and the exploration of that entire process, and how he's jumped from core discovery into web design and app design. I have some templates as well that I'll be sharing, and they will be in the Accelerator program. So I'm really excited to share that with you guys. And just so that you guys understand what the system is, it's really the company that is architecting core and all of the frameworks and tools and community behind it. Coming up next is Fire, which will be the kid on really helping understand a brand's why, whether for yourself as an individual, for your team, or for an organization. And then ultimately Flow, which is going to be a toolkit on how you can co-create together and really build the rituals that define the culture and really help uh, design powerful outcomes.
The funny part is that the icon for flow is actually fire. We need to change that, but it originally the tattoo was, because the person who trained me in agile is a Sagittarius, and that's fire that pushes stuff forward. But I did promise to stop using woo metaphors. So how would we reframe that? We need to update the symbol for flow into something a little bit more appropriate. Is that better, Keone? Vote of hands. Who wants less woo or more woo? Vote for more woo. Natasha has no woo, please. We don't want to know any of your weird stuff. Got it.
Here's the thing, it's all about the balance, right? I think there's appropriate conversations where we can really weave in the language, and then there's less appropriate.
It spooks people, especially, yeah.
Cool. So let's dive into the core Q&A. And today, what I'd really like to see, or discuss is how you guys have really been interpreting core and like what the conversations have been around it and how you guys have been able to leverage it. There's a lot of conversation that I've been receiving where people are very adamant. They're like, core is not strategy. Core is just a framework. Or vice versa. Core is strategy and it's not a framework. Or core is neither of those things. Now, I'm going to share from my perspective as a practitioner. To me, core was the answer for brand strategy. I felt like, because I'm not a typically trained designer or developer, I felt challenged with taking on an agency and being the head of an agency and be responsible for pitching and project and determining the outcomes of all of the projects and being responsible for facilitating these conversations, and not, going to college for advertising, and thinking like, well, how could I be a brand strategist? So what I did what probably most of you guys did, which was you look online, you look for everyone that's teaching brand strategy, you get all the Marty Heimer books, Brand Gap, etc., and you just try to build.
Marty Newmeyer. Did you just call him? What did you call him? Heine Reiner? What's up? Newmeyer.
I mixed the names together.
We should just call him that.
Yeah. But here's the point, right? I'm sitting here and I'm reading this and I'm talking to mentors that I have in the space, and they're all telling me that I'm already a brand strategist. And at the time, I really struggled with that. I struggled with having a very clear foundation for understanding how brand strategies should be executed. And then I came across Jose this week in web design many years ago, many moons ago, and reached out to him, and he suggested core to me. And core really set the framework for me to be able to understand any and all brand strategy. It was quite literally like the core foundation of all brand strategy. most importantly, it really allowed for me to focus on delivering impact for clients, which is really what they're looking for. Um, I don't know how many strategists and creatives that we have in the room that have had a client that have said, um, I want to just build my brand. I just want to determine what my brand values are. Most of my clients were like, well, how do I grow? How do I increase my sales? How do I build awareness so that I know that our marketing campaigns are building traction? How can I create efficiencies within my company? How do I develop my products? These were the kinds of questions that I was getting from potential clients. And I struggled with having a framework for me to be able to address those things. Core set in my mind probably the most fundamental brand strategy framework that I've been able to experience, because it incorporates all of the basic elements that are necessary for a brand to grow and innovate. And that is about user testing and really focusing on your customers and using that as a basis to get data and like design with data. It brought in the cultural attributes. So, me being able to understand how a company's culture can be integrated and expressed through design. And then ultimately, the most important is the commerce side of things, right? What are the business priorities? And how can we use those business priorities to really drive the deliverables that come out of the conversations that we have, the facilitated work sessions. Now, this was important to me because I always looked um, at branding as culture and commerce, right? It's where those two things intersect, and how you can allow for that intersection to grow and develop and to build something that's really truly representative of the culture, but at the same time sits in a place of commerce and can really build the resources to grow in a sustainable way. Now, these are
And
my. Go ahead, Jose.
yeah, that in your experience, and Papa just made a comment. I think it's important, and we should get into the questions. Like the issue of translation, both you and Papa have the ability to really translate fairly easily with a lot of confidence, even though still there's struggles dealing with the design aspect of it.
Mhm.
But really, Natasha's drop in and kind of articulating how specifically to do that, especially in her case in the digital space
Yeah,
and web space. We should get into the examples because you guys are outliers in terms
yeah.
of users.
So let's dive into that. And I'd love to start with Natasha and her question about translating core into like web design in the UX process. Now, for me, what I do is after going through core, after identifying the deliverables and understanding what the deliverables may be, in this case, say that it's a website, what I then look at is how the product and services prioritize which user personas, right? So if the client is selling a service, what is the primary persona that we need to address in this service and ultimately represent on the website? If it's a product, it's the same principle. And what I do is then I architect what is called a customer journey. Basically, what it is you look at the persona and then you map their entire experience from discovering that they actually have a need for that product and service, to how they discover and search for that product and service, to who are the competitors in that space. So making sure that your cultural elements really define and position your product and service in a unique way that allows for it to stand out, to them discovering the website and what happens on that website that nudges them along this path of understanding that this is probably the best solution for them. Once I map that out, then I can determine what are the design assets that we may need for that. And then I can dive into the framework and the wireframe of the website and say, okay, here is the user story. Here are the different questions and concerns they're going to have. Here is the copy and design that is going to assuage those concerns. And then, of course, keeping in mind that the timeline of purchase from where a customer may discover the brand and discover the solution to where they ultimately may make that purchase may not happen in a, and asking me to turn my mic up. So let's do this. Give me 1 second. And sorry, guys. Hello, hello. How's that? Is that better for everyone? Excellent. Beautiful. So, so back to the point that I was making. In a website, in a wireframe, uh, understanding that, or excuse me, the timeline, understanding that a customer may come to the website, but maybe they may need an email and maybe a couple blog posts and a couple principles of why the brand works this way and why it delivers in a certain way, uh, as part of that sales process. Now, that's for me, but I'd love to hear Jose's thoughts on that and maybe anybody else who's had a little bit of experience in this space.
I'm looking through some examples. Natasha, there is a creative live course that I taught. We also did it on the Future and some of the free videos on YouTube, where I translate, the customer profiles specifically to landing pages, or in the case scenario of the creative live, I was reading the core components and then translating it into an app with the client there, and the questionnaires. A lot of the process is somewhat live, which is uncomfortable sometimes for designers to have to think and do at the same time, and the fear of making the mistakes, of giving the wrong recommendation, etc. So one of the things from a mindset standpoint, and Jaja was talking or asking about this in the Future group on Slack. Do I need to do the data matching? Do I need to do the other ones? From the 3 exercises that we added to the core framework, the most important one out of the 3 new ones is the user story. We call it impact narrative, and the reason it's called impact narrative is because you want to get to the result of the column in the impact column, which is what kind of money, time, etc. do you deliver to this particular client. I have the Everyone deck open, and I'm just gonna share it very quickly, just to point out what I'm talking about. Because if you think of core as a DJ booth, where you have the things that, I put up the results. Think of this as a live brief. I put up the results on the wall. Now I do it in Mural or in Figma because we're all remote, right? It's a big challenge to do it. And then over here in the corner, I'm DJing, I'm assembling. So by reading the 3 top needs of each user, I can actually do the 3 entry points to the website, or the 5 categories. A basic rule of UX is don't make too many sections, right? 5 is like a maximum minimum. So out of those 5, what are the most likely ones to address the issue of the users? Now, most of those things are seldom in current and in general in UX patterns, because for digital, you have core, which is the data from your client, and then you have patterns, meaning what is the current modality in which a website looks. Right now, a lot of it is, for mobile, so you don't even have it's basically a scroll, 1-page scroll. So you have to have all the key entry points to the website on that scroll. So what are the top 3 needs of the users that you have? Those are the top 3 entry points. You could even do 3 modules that address each of them and say, are you A, and etc. And do you need this? Yes, great, click here. That's as pedantic and as simple as it is. I translate the need, the top need, or the top 3 needs of the customer profile into the value proposition. Meaning, if we say my need is, as a user of core and a user of the system, my need is I need meaning in my work. I want to have it be exciting again, like some people we've heard here. Then let's give you a framework for purpose. Let's let you share your story. Let's connect you through your hero's journey to who you are. So that's actually a very specific need identified on the road doing teaching core in Latin America. People were not connected to their work because they were just doing work for money. And that's one specific need, and we've been addressing it. The need that was identified recently was, and Keone's been tracking it really well, is Natasha's questions and the questions of how to use it. And, just let's dig into like the practice aspects of it. And that's why now we have office hours, right? So we're really responding to just the top needs of the users in that. And if you just do that for digital, you're in good shape. Then putting it into a user story, where does the user find out about, us? Oh, on Instagram, great. Now, you have to do an Instagram post. If you read the user need, that post should ask the question or answer the question of what the need is. Are you looking for meaning in your work as a designer? Boom, Instagram post. Now you're making it I call it tit for tatting. Everything becomes tit for tat. When you're dealing with your client, you're saying, you said, we did. You said, we did. The data matching exercise, which is interesting, it's about conscious coupling. It's like, here are the top 3 needs of a user, and here's your top 3 needs as a business from a revenue standpoint. What are the things that we can do yes and? Like, yes, you meet the user's need and you get revenue from it. Oh, let's make a kit from our purpose, and the why to help people find meaning. And we're making a kit. So we're using Core to build the system and to validate it, because even if you have an intuitive, I am the kind of person who goes, I just need to talk to the client for an hour and I'll know exactly what I need to build for them. But by having Core as like a backup and a way to say, you said it, not me, and we're doing it. So keep in mind that strategy is less about direction and more about alignment. So there's a big confusion sometimes that people say that a brand strategy framework is going to tell you exactly what to do. And I'm like, honey child, no, it's not going to tell you what to do. It's going to give you options as what to do, but then it won't be you dictating them. It's you agreeing with the people that you came up with them together. It's about we are the system. Collectively, we can actually move forward. You have to validate it through experimentation, through data, through, if you were on Clubhouse, we're talking about positioning, and we're going to do it again next Monday, every week. And Jeff, who was the designer on Everyone, or his agency, here's Jeff, was our partner in doing the rebrand of Everyone. They did all the stuff like competitive audit, like they did exhaustive amounts of work. But what we did, instead of it making it about me and Core, I don't use the word Core in the engagement. We're going to align where we're at. And Jeff brought a bunch of his tools and what from J&J and how he does it. Keep in mind, Jeff was also in my class 15 years ago on design process at Art Center. So he became a strategist, or he became strategically involved as a designer from that class and moved forward. And I came to speak at Johnson & Johnson early on, like 15 years ago. And it was really the empowerment. He's an empowered designer. He's meddling with the marketing people. He's in charge of a rebrand, and he needs to know all those variables. The reason I'm mentioning that is because in experiencing being with him on this project, I understood that you can include other frameworks and you can include other people's ideas. So it's okay to do that. So I'll stop. This, Natasha, is brand architecture with the client. Now we have to do it on Mural because we're not in the room. But it was basically architecting their product offering by vertical. And the mandate was we needed to remove like 80% of the SKUs because that was what the business needed to kind of streamline. That's very difficult to get alignment with people on that, especially like in a large organization or nonprofits. They tussle a lot because of agreement and alignment. So I make the process fun and no one is right or wrong and just, kind of like try to do it. So, but product architecture or even the website or the application architecture is a real component that you can do with Core. And then I've done many webinars about it, and we do probably need to do how do you translate Core into web in a more concerted way, either as part of the kit or probably just as an office hours where we just demonstrate it. I hope that was of some value. I'm done.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Jose. What I'd love to hear is everyone's feedback on that. Like, was that clear for you guys? Did that make sense? Was that valuable?
A little rambly, but
yeah. Jaja, I saw you furiously scrolling down and taking some notes. But for Natasha, that was really specifically for you, and to help you on that process. Did that give you any clarity?
Yeah, that was definitely helpful. I think I should probably like write down a slew of all of my questions that I have. That way,
Mhm.
if you ever want to do like just a really super focused one, I can like bring up like a project that I'm working on and point to like the areas that I have issues with or I feel conflicted or I have, like need additional say support around.
That's
Yeah.
a really good idea for office
Whenever
hours.
you're ready, let me know.
Bring your project and just show us the project, and we'll answer the question about the project.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, case study based.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you, Natasha. And Jaja, I saw your mute come off. Did you have some comments? We'd love to hear from you.
Yes, thank you so much, Jose. That is absolutely brilliant. The reason why I'm asking that question is because my client is so busy. So it's very hard to track him down and stay focused. And, when I go through those questions, I want to just go, go through like the process you listed on the doc. However, he's really hard to get to tell.
Yeah, you can't get him in a room for a long session like that. So yeah,
No.
we basically did core with clients like that in an hour and a half, and we cut whatever exercises we need to cut. We get as much as we can out of it. So some designers have a choice, like you do the first one, brand attributes, or you do the user profiles. If you were to do only one exercise of all 6, the customer profiles is the exercise to do, and then you don't do anything else, and then you're fine. You can design the whole thing with that and be successful.
That's brilliant. So
and here's a trick to get them into the room. Set up one meeting for an hour or an hour and a half and make it really dynamic and like very few exercises. If people have the tendency to try to get the whole agenda done or have this long agenda and it's super like, just risky because you're not going to get through everything. So then the client's going to think either you're inefficient or they're dumb, one of the two. So no one wants to feel bad. So make the agenda super small just to begin with, or co-create the agenda. That exercise at the beginning of core, what do you want to get out of the session? What are you going to get out of the session? That's to co-create an agenda. Nobody likes to be just shoved through a meeting. It's nice if it's us together coming up with the agenda.
Oh, totally. Okay, what I'll do is I'll run through that 3 brand attributes and customer profiles and go prioritization and see where they want, see if they feel comfortable enough. And if they say, hey, we still feel,
Yeah, you could potentially just do one, like do the brand attributes and do one customer profile. And then that's an hour and a half. And then they're like, oh, wow, this was great. And you say, we would love to do a little bit more. Do you have another hour and a half? And then you kind of, because now they're excited, they're more willing to spend time with you on that. But most of our clients, because we did startups, were super ADD and really like, and what I did is, because it's, usually men run startups, but even when it's a woman CEO, women CEOs were more amicable to collaboration. The men just wanted to the men that we attracted as leaders actually were cool with collaborating eventually. But when there was a hesitation, I just didn't give them the option. I said, this is the discovery kickoff. I didn't tell them we were doing strategy. I didn't tell them anything. I just catfished them into the meeting.
Cool. Thank you so much. That's really, really helpful.
Yeah. Catfish your way through core.
And
we're gonna have a fun discovery, session to listen about what you need. Yeah, we might have some questions and some prompts for it, and then you bust out the core sheets, and they're like, "Ooh, you guys are really organized."
Yeah, absolutely. And for a lot of you guys that are like early as a practitioner, I get this question a lot. Well, like how well do you need to know the business, or how well do you need to know the market? For me, I have generally preferred to go in without any real background on the business. And it's because it allows for me to enter into the business with a beginner's mindset. So what that is, and gosh, I'm trying to think of the name. I think his name is Daniel Quick. He talks about the best ways to learn and the best ways to understand things. And he says, one of the things that you need to do when you're learning a new subject, or you really want to understand something fundamentally, it's this concept of emptying the cup. meaning you want to be able to come in and be able to look at things with fresh eyes, because then it allows for you to be more objective. And you don't carry all of the biases of everyone else that is already in the industry, that may have been in the industry for 10, 15 years. So when something comes across, and this has happened to me in many of my clients, I'm like, well, why did you guys do that this way? Right? Here are other options here, or this might be incredibly insufficient, it's a waste of resources, whatever the case may be. And it always forces them to take a step back and be like, huh, right? I think what is really important to understand is the ways that just business as a whole is evolving, popular business models or new business models that are emerging, and really being familiar with the new technologies that are emerging that businesses can leverage within their communities. Those are the things that have really allowed for me to provide innovative solutions for a lot of my clients. And it's not because I knew so much about their particular industry, or I knew so much about their particular vertical, but it was because, hey, these are new technologies that I see a lot of companies using and leveraging. Here are things that you know Gen Z communities or boomer communities are really latching onto. Here are some trends that I'm seeing happening overall just among demographics. Like, all of those things will allow for you to be better informed to provide more innovative solutions for your clients without having to have the background of, I've been in your industry for 10 or 15 years. More so, and I'll say this and then we'll move into the next questions, is me being able to have fresh eyes and not working with typically companies within this space means that the solution that I'm going to provide is going to be very, very different than everybody else in the space. And that is just because they're going to be looking at people that have been doing this kind of work before. So guess what? If you've been doing the same work for 10 years in the same industry for 10 years, your work is going to look like just about everybody else's work that's been in the industry for 10 years. But me coming in and having a new perspective and having a fresh eyes on this problem is going to allow for me to produce something that's going to be different and unique than anybody else in the market. So I'll hop off my soapbox and let's dive into the chat and let's see what folks are saying. Let's see. Cassie is talking about how she has addressed core experiences or core work sessions, speed sessions in multiple different ways. Cassie, I'd love to hear a little bit about that. Would you like to come on stage and share?
Sure, I'll do voice. So I recently wrapped up a brand identity project for a client I've been working with for about 3.5 years. And this is the first time I've done any portion of core with them, even though I've done other brand identity projects with them. We didn't really have a good process. So this one we did was for an inaugural convention for a union, and we had to do everything online, and I ended up working with 7 different people, including the president of the union, who I'd never met. And I think they came in with kind of skeptical, I don't know if they're open-minded, sure, but like they didn't really know what to expect other than what I told them via the emails, because of course I do all the groundwork with the primary client contact, the director of marketing. So I guess my question is, how do you prepare the rest of the team when it's more than a handful of people? Like, I was dealing with 7 people in that session.
Good question. I'll let Jose handle this and then I'll dive in and I'll share my experiences.
And I was reading some of them. So if I can recap, Cassie, how much preparation and background should you give the client team, all the groundwork, almost like the roadmap for like all of the things that you have to do? Do you send an introduction email on the workbook beforehand? But I know people are a big spectacle and aware of the purpose of each step. For us, what we did is during our sales process, we referenced and mentioned it in the sales deck, in the pitch deck, that we would be doing discovery, that we would provide a workbook for the session, that it would be fun, that other people had fun doing it. We were just priming them for the experience. One thing that
Hmm. Is anybody else hearing this?
No,
Okay.
we're not hearing this.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm
Jose, we
not the
just
only one.
lost you. Yeah. You want to try again, Jose? Let's try muting. Yeah. No, we can't hear you. Very strange. Maybe you want to try logging out and logging back in. I'm afraid, though, that we might lose our live on Facebook.
Keone, can I jump in on that? I just
Yeah.
did facilitated a session for 9 people earlier here in
Hmm.
Manila, and I like what I did to prepare is I emailed the agenda prior, and then I asked who the attendees are, and so it helped me kind of see, and I asked the decision maker, who do you want to participate in this facilitation? Who do you want to pitch in? And so she told me, okay, this I need the opinion of this, because they know the market well. Okay, I said. And so for the next, when the facilitation happened the next day, I did in regards to the question of Cassie in terms of 2 hours, I
Hmm.
focused on three exercises. I did brand statement for 35 minutes, and then I did the user profiles for 20 minutes. I was hoping to get one good profile. And then the third exercise I did was the goals prioritization, because I wanted to hand it off to the team wherein they can brainstorm after and that they can proceed with their marketing team. So what happened during that exercise, in terms of the facilitation and managing the energy, what I found really helpful was the intention, like what Jose said earlier. I got the intention of each of, and then just pitch in on the chat. That making use of the chat during Zoom is really helpful because it lessens the time for me to, since I have very limited time, I have 2.5 hours to go through everything. And so after that, I did the general time for brand attributes at 35 minutes. And then I divided that to the exercises, which is culture, um, the whole exercise. I divided it, so I think that was 3 minutes. And so I had two timers for me, one for each exercise. And so I found that sticking to the time box and making sure that you hasten and make that they pitch in also in the chat. Cassie, I found that really helpful, and they found it that it's more energetic that way because you're more likely to the energy is hyped up, and so they're more likely to pitch in and brainstorm. So I think that was what I found effective during the facilitation I did earlier this morning.
Yeah, I have some comments on that. I did all of that. My concern is on their knowing what's going on and understanding the purpose and intention behind the activities, because during the sales process, I'm only talking to one or two out of the 7 people. And then they are going to pull people from different departments working on this specific convention and saying like, hey, you need to do this, we're going to do brand strategy, but they don't really, beyond the emails, they don't really know what to expect. And I did do the chat drop in for introductions to save time, and honestly, that I wouldn't do it all in the same way as I did, like because to me it was like very cold. And even though like you're trying to be like, yay, welcome everyone, introduce yourself, you don't really have time to do that because I only had 2 hours. So what I ended up doing was brand attributes, the brand statement, and we didn't spend like even 10-15 minutes on the brand statement. And then we did 2 customer profiles. And I was planning to do business goal setting with my one contact, just one-on-one, but we didn't end up doing it. So we did that all in 2 hours. And that was just one of the feedback I got, was I didn't understand when I was coming in what the purpose of these activities were or how it related to our goal of getting a logo, you know, and that was people who were outside my main contact.
Mm. So I'll share an experience that I had where I had, I think, 8 individuals that wanted to sit in on the work session. For me, as part of, you know, prepping and part of our sales, I emphasize that the work session is for those individuals that are responsible for the decision-making process, not those individuals that are responsible for input. And we did that because it was a large organization. They had something like 400 employees. They had 5 different divisions. And for everyone to be able to provide input would be incredibly difficult. And so I had to focus on just those that were responsible for the decision making. Any input that had to come from anywhere else had to go through them. And in focusing on the decision makers, when we focused on 2 exercises, and that was personas and customer attributes. The business priorities I did with the CFO on a one-on-one basis. And so the way that I presented the strategy was, here are the attributes, here is the business, or here is the brand positioning statement that we arrived on. Here are a few different variations, and you know, and I just tried to make sure that I could, you know, massage those into a way that I felt really established what they were trying to articulate, and then very clear customer profiles. And then I presented the priorities based on my conversation with the CFO. In presenting that, they were able to look at it and say, okay, I feel comfortable taking the next steps on exploration. And what they did then was the stylescapes that I presented, they then presented to the individuals that they wanted to get input from. I feel that it's really challenging when you have too many people in the room that aren't responsible for decision making. Because then I'm dealing with folks that want to put input just to have input, as opposed to being able to provide input that is really valuable and actionable and necessary. So that was one thing that I did, just to kind of make sure that I wasn't dealing with too much information that I needed to synthesize. And then the next thing, to kind of address your point on what people were kind of expecting from the meeting, is I always describe it as a branding work session to determine what the deliverables are going to be. And at the start of the session, we always do the alignment exercises, which is, okay, you know that this is a branding session, you know that there are particular deliverables that we need to, you know, really define. And we need to be positioning our brand and understanding where the brand is at and how we're going to synthesize all of this input from the brand into the deliverables. So knowing that, and knowing that this is a meeting for that, what are your expectations? You know, what are the outcomes that you want to have from this meeting? And you know, and usually from the outcomes, I'll like flow. And Jose has seen me do it. There's times where I've had clients, and you know, we enter into a core work session, and from the input and the personality of the people there, I'm like, you know what will be really good is for me to just to focus on attributes in a persona instead of maybe priorities. And using that to really get everybody involved and on board, because they were more of a feely type of personality. So being able to really be able to identify the culture and get those feelings out really onboarded them and really gave them like excitement about the process. So we pushed an additional session for us to finalize personas and to finalize business priorities. And that energy was definitely different because it was something that they weren't as excited to do. But being that the first step of the project, they were really engaged and excited to dive into attributes and the brand positioning statement, and like really defining the company from a cultural standpoint, gave them the confidence to be able to step into the second work session and do the stuff that was a little bit more difficult, easier. And there, I hope that was valuable for you, Cassie.
Very helpful. Thank you. Yeah. I added some stuff in the comments, but yeah, like I think it took them a while to just kind of warm up and get used to this collaborative, different type of meeting, because we didn't use Mural, but we used Google Jamboard. And there were some difficulties there with the president trying to use it. So I was like translating for her. But after a while, I think they really loosened up and figured out who their members were and their needs. And that was like the biggest benefit. And really, they were able to align together.
Yeah, that's something that I do as part of my just like prepping for the project, as part of my sales process, is kind of understanding the team and who's responsible for what. Um, Understanding, individuals' areas of responsibilities sort of give me insights into what are the things that are really important on their mind. If you're on the sales team, then of course they're going to be looking at campaigns and marketing collateral and ways to drive sales. If they are in human resources, they're going to be interested about the culture. If they're on the development team, like you can kind of get a feel for what are the things that are going to be really, really important for them. And that allows for me to kind of understand, okay, here's how I'm going to couch the conversations around these exercises so that, their input is super duper valuable. So yeah. And, while you guys chew on that a little bit, I'm going to dive into the chat because there's some really interesting points that I think we should bring up. Like Jose says, he doesn't allow for arguments in these.
Up to the board. Basically, I'm like, let's point it at here. I also prompt the CEO or whoever the alpha is in the room. I take them aside before the meeting. I go, especially let's say it's the CEO, like this is for your team, for you to listen. I don't let them like dominate, because people are afraid of saying ideas in front of their boss. So that happens very frequently.
Yeah. And one of the things that I always do is I always pump up, anybody that contributes. The goal is for
good job.
people to
Yes.
contribute.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You elevate the energy, keep them going, especially people that are not very self-expressed at work. And I know, and I name it. Naming things is really important. It's like, I know that some of you are afraid to say things because it's not your role or because you don't have that as a habit or as a culture. But I want to set the container for this space now to be one where you can say anything. Those are the rules, right? Say anything, have fun, etc. Keone, if you want to bring up the slides, and also so that we can start landing it, but get more questions. There's a question that you had from previous questions that you wanted to cover that we didn't. Just making sure we name it.
Yeah, I've got a ton of questions, but we've got some stuff in the chat going on that I'd like to bring up because
go for it.
Yeah, and Patricia brought it up. She talked about when you're prioritizing attributes, is there's different ways to identify them. Patricia, would you like to share what that question was?
Yeah, so when I did the exercise, I noticed that we were pressed for time. And so, is there another way to export the attributes? Because I know it's essential to extract that so that we can do the tone of voice and all of that. And so, since I have 9 participants, that I need to get somehow a democratic way of that they feel that they are heard. Is the voting necessary to get them, or is there another way for me to export the top 4 attributes to prompt that question to get the top one?
So there's 2 ways to make it shorter. One is you facilitate it, like set the timer for each column to be shorter and say you can only put 6 attributes. The other way is use Mural or use like something where you can do all of them at the same time. Explain all of them and then have people put kind of attributes underneath them each, and then only spend your time voting. Like give them 5 minutes to put attributes in all 6 categories and then go through them and just pick one. So you cut the 5 and just go straight to 1. Those are all techniques to cut down time.
Thank you.
You got
One
it.
technique also is to send that out ahead of time. Let them put in the attributes in a Google Doc, version of your deck. And then they'll do a whole long ass list and everybody will contribute a lot. And then when you come into the meeting, you only give them the option to choose the top ones.
Noted. Thank you so much, Jose.
Yeah, thank you so much. Cassie, yeah, I'm giving him a few minutes to vote via the Google Jamboard. Yeah, there's always that element of using new digital tools. So much of the work that we're doing now, these work sessions we're facilitating digitally, and so that makes a challenge. What I generally do is I will do like an intro, like a first meeting online, and I'll do that with some sort of online tool, whether it's Mural or Miro or otherwise. And so that's how I kind of warm them up to the experience. I'll be like, okay, hey, I know that we've got this session going on, but is there like half an hour where we can touch base with everyone? I just kind of remind everyone like what this process is going to be like. I want to make sure everybody knows me. So when we dive into that work session, we dive into it and we can almost like hit the ground running. And so sometimes I'll do that alignment exercise prior in that conversation. And it's just like, hey, what's up? I'm Keone. I'm here to really focus on synthesizing everybody's input. Um, I know that you guys are all experts in your respective areas of responsibilities, and that's perfect. But the key is that we move together as a unit, as a group. The key is that we can all have input that everybody can see and respect, that it's coming from an area of expertise. And ultimately, we need to bring all of our input together into one clear direction. So set the rules for the engagement, set the tone, get them to understand me. I keep it super light and funky. I want for everyone just to feel comfortable. And that also gives me a little bit of perception where I can understand, okay, this person might be a little bit shy. So I need to really make sure that I emphasize the opportunity for their input. This person might be a little bit overbearing in conversation. So I need to make sure that I can redirect him in a healthy way, and kind of understanding the dynamics. So much of really great facilitation is about being able to manage the personalities, right? Great facilitators, they don't need to have the answers. What they need to do is they need to make everybody feel comfortable and be able to direct their energy in appropriate ways.
Yeah. And a lot of that comes, and this is acknowledging, that facilitating and taking the role proactively to wrangle teams is something that we're not commonly used to as designers and as creative people. So acknowledging that's a difficult thing, practicing it with your friends. But something that Keone and I were talking about the other day on a walk back from somewhere here in downtown was this issue of like, what gives you the confidence and the certainty to be able to handle those things? And I think the hero exercise on Friday, and I think that defining our stories, understanding our superpowers, and even if we're introverts, like how best we can manage the process of facilitation, it's really important. So like working on the personal part, like what are the blocks and the reasons why you might not feel as powerful inside a room. And if you don't have the Taurian confidence that Keone and I have maybe in a room, how to build it, something that we want to build that conversation here in office hours and on Fridays in design therapy.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's now 12:08. As we start to wind this down, I'd love to know, from you guys, and you can post it in the chat or you guys can come up on stage. Has this been valuable for you? Like what you're kind of able to take away from today's session, and if there are any last questions for you guys as we move into the rest of the week. And the floor is open, y'all.
I do have a question. It's about the team separation. How do you present actually if there is a team of clients?
Hey, Danny, sorry to interrupt, brother, but your volume is coming across really low. Is there any way that you can turn it up? Or
And get closer to your device.
Closer to the mic?
You can hear me?
It's still coming through kind of muted. It's almost like something is over the mic.
Now it's better?
Much better. Yeah.
There you go. Okay, so I was curious, how do you present and also prepare a team for a session? Because I found it a bit difficult to make them understand how everything works and what's the result of this session. Like, do you have multiple presentations first to present maybe to the CEO of the company how it works and why it's worth to make it, and then another presentation to make the team understand what's going on? Or how do you structure and align everyone in this process?
Can you give us a little bit of like a case study of like what type of team? Are they technology? Are they men? Are they women? Like what kind of company? Like give me an example.
Let's say it's a startup. There are three people in the team, and they're tech startup, basically.
Got it. So you have the
Me-
CEO, the CTO, and maybe like a head
Yeah,
developer, a designer, and a CEO. Let's say that. Got it. In a startup, my experience is that just enrolling the CEO is good, but sometimes, you know, the other people are equally powerful because startups are like pirate crews, like everybody has a vote. There's many ways to do it. There's really educating your customers ahead of time for them to know, like creating videos, doing webinars on how you work. The way that large agencies do it, by the way, is in their sales process, they have their process and their account people will walk through it. Startups, not big fans of having to go through that. They just want you to build the stuff for them and give them a logo. They're going to have resistance improving. So how I did it for startups, and you don't have to do it this way, by the way, is they knew that we did some sort of discovery framework or we did something with them. I just didn't give them a lot of the details. I didn't give them the option even to have to be convinced, because most of them would have said, no, cut it out. We don't need that. We just need the damn logo. That's what the CEO would have said. So I didn't lie. I just omitted the fact that we were going to do it during the kickoff. This is the kickoff meeting. Here's the agenda. It's half a day. We're going to talk about what features you need, what you want your logo to look like, and who your users are. That's what we're going to talk about, right? Okay, just show up to the damn thing, block your calendar. Right before the meeting, like maybe hours, I would send them the workbook. And they were like, what? But they were already scheduled, so they just showed up.
Yeah, but in this case, how they can see the value that you will provide them?
But what do you mean by that? By like, is this worth doing it? Is that what you mean? Like, is it worth to spend the time to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Alignment. If you quote famous CEOs in startups, the hardest thing for a startup to get is alignment, for you all to contribute and agree. If you're not aligned, it's going to slow you down and it's going to delay your time to market. Scare them. Just scare them. Don't prove the value positively. Prove the value negatively. If you're not in agreement to what features and to what functionalities you're going to have in your application, and we roll out stuff, you're going to be wasteful. You're going to build a lot of stuff in the wrong direction. You're going to fail, and you're going to disappoint yourself, your investors, and the world.
So you are going on the fear of missing out, actually.
Yeah. Do you want to do this right, or do you just want to be a cowboy? If you want to be a cowboy, go do it on your own. Thank you very much. You walk away. You're like, they love that. Startup guys love it when you're brash with them and when you're like, come on.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
And, you know, there's also the other approach, which is, this is my process. This is how I'm able to deliver excellent work. You know, so without this process, I can't guarantee that the work that I'm going to deliver you is going to be high fidelity.
Yeah, and I would like to add something that is, I think before getting to the core engagement, that all this, there's some, I don't know if it's power moves or what it is, but for example, I would never rush into a 2-hour session because I know it's just, unless it's someone that I know and that prior to talking to them, they are really clear about their business and they will be able to just like come and shoot. And it's like, okay, everyone is clear and you go out. But if I have no idea who I'm dealing with, I just, it's part of my process of discovering, you know, and it comes with working with me. Like I don't like to rush. I don't like rushing and I like the conversation side. So I think by getting that clear before coming to an engagement or receiving the first payment, I'm really clear on how the engagement will be. And I also try on the first call, I would go like inverse from the core framework. I would ask their business goals, their revenue goals, and their efficiency goals. I would ask a little bit about the customer profile, and a little bit about the brand, you know. So I have a little idea of how it comes, how it works in place, and then I do like Keone does. I rather flow with the energy of the room, and I use the brand attributes exercise to, because it's the easiest one, and it's easier for people to talk. So I pay attention to people that are not talking, to ask them questions and bring them into the room. And just by asking a question, sometimes people their energy changes, and also it makes the other people reflect on how they're leaving people behind. Like they like when you're self-conscious that you're talking too much, you know. So I think that's the power when you're facilitating, and it comes with understanding that the answers, I don't have the answers. I have no answer. I'm just here to walk them through the process and ask questions. And as Jose said, like put order, and the order is something I ask for permission at the beginning of the session. I say like right now, I will ask for permission to take control of the room by managing time, breaking up discussions, and flowing the energy to achieving these goals. What are the goals? A brand statement, and this is what the brand statement will achieve for us. This is how we will translate it in the future. We want at least 2 customer profiles and define the business goals. That's something I do in every, like when I start any core session. So, but I think it's an invitation to play around with the framework, because it's not happening just during the core session. Like it's happening when they come through your Instagram. You can ask questions and you can start aligning yourself to them. So it's just like play around. If you can talk more, like the less you rush it, the more information you get. So that's it.
Yeah, you know, Pape, that was super valuable, and thank you so much for sharing. You know, as Jose says, you know, they have to hear it at least 3 times, and I totally agree with that. You know, and something that I think, you know, really comes to mind, and this was a conversation I had with Jose yesterday, is when we think about branding and we think about facilitation, you know, I really would like for you guys to think about this as an exhibition of your human skills, right? These aren't hard skills. These aren't like actual skill sets around, you know, you being able to typeset a logo or, you know, increase the kerning on a font appropriately. This is about your ability to connect with humans, and being able to really understand and see them in their truest form, and to be able to like really understand what they're trying to share with you. This is all a process of synthesis. This is all a process of receiving the inputs at a people level, at a human level, and being able to craft a strategy that is oriented around human concerns. It's super, super important. And, you know, like, you know, Jose had told me this several years ago. He said, you know, if you want to become better at business, become a better person. And I remember thinking about that. I was like, yeah, but I'm already pretty awesome. I don't know if I need to get better. I have some girlfriends who debate that, but you know, in life, you know, we learn and we become better people. And I think that, you know, this journey of me trying to understand myself better, and really learn to understand people better, at a human level, is really what has allowed for me to like level up and understand the nuances of facilitation and brand strategy, because it's really about humans, understanding them, being able to hear them, and being able to connect with them.
It is talking about humans. Hania and Papa wanted to have some closing thoughts, which I think is great. Why don't we move? Let's talk about the Accelerator program and do our closing rituals, and close it with a little bit of music, and then Hania and Papa and everyone else who wants to upload to the, you know, to what's next, what they got out of today. Any like messages. Does that make sense? Papa and Hania, you guys will get the part of the last wrap up, but let's go through the last few slides.
Okay, awesome. So as always, this is brought to you by Core's Magic. You know, we'd love to connect with you guys on the socials. So connect with us. We'd love to hear and see where you guys are at. You know, so definitely share. You know, we have the Core Tribe. So, join us on Facebook and, share all the conversations and all the details that you guys have gotten in there. We have the Accelerator program that is now being populated with a lot of our example documents. So that's really exciting.
All the documents from our Everyone project, all the briefs, like somebody asked the whole process. So like we had the process diagram at the beginning, and then every time we finish, it's like a treasure map. Every time we hit a look, we just finished that, we would check it off, then we would check off the next one. And we were flexible with the process of what we did and the timing, but we were always like showing them what level we were at in the engagement. And we're gonna have those up on there on the Accelerator program.
Yeah. So yeah, this will all be in the Accelerator program. Really excited for that as it develops. As you guys know, the access to the Systm Accelerator will be $125 a month. We've got the Fire Kit that is coming soon, and that'll be launching in May. Really excited to share that with you guys. And we've got some really exciting case studies that are coming up that we're using for the Fire Kit. So as always, like and subscribe. And for the upload, let's talk about, one key takeaway and share. And for that, we've got Hania and Pape. So guys, come on up. The stage is yours.
Pape, go ahead.
Thank you, Hania. Yeah, no, I just wanted to share. First, it's been really awesome to ask the questions, because it made me reflect on the way I deal with all of this. It's been almost a year since I did my first core, but now I realize that the first time I did it was 3 years ago, and it was intuitively by building my brand Psychotropic, and I found the sketches, and I had a small brand attributes with a brand statement, and then two customer profiles. So for me, what I find out with this is that it's the same as the hero's journey. It's something that it's not just a framework, it's not just a method. It's about, as we're saying, it's human interaction and dealing with connections and how psychology works, and how to present ideas to people is all about storytelling to make sense. And imagine as when you're going with your client, it's just coming back to the story and just continue talking. And I don't know if Keone, if you allowed me to show the latest brief I did, because someone was asking like how many presentations you show to your client. And what I do is I use the framework and I start expanding on the same framework as I get different engagements. And for example, in this one, it's a real estate project, and we have like first names and then logo and all of this. And I just start going back, and as you guys are doing it here, like the where we are at now, what we've done, the different conclusions. And every single week I ask for the affirmation, like, are you still okay with this statement? Are you still agreeing with this? Do you think we can move forward today with all of that? And I guess is just understanding that yeah, core is everywhere. Because this weekend, the customer profiles we created for Psychotropic a year ago, I met all of them in real life, like what they were saying, their dreams, their needs, all of it in one same place. And it was just, it's the hero's journey, it's the circle. And I mean, it's woo-woo, it is woo-woo, but you could see the magic or not, and for me, it's I cannot explain how I can get a girlfriend buy me a t-shirt on Friday, and that suddenly her boyfriend writes to us on Monday, and they both connected with the same brand, and they didn't know, and they both bought t-shirts for each other, and it's magical. And I the only thing I would say is that the best way to practice this is on your own, like walking the path. Because what I see is that it's hard to tell someone where to go when you don't know the exact needs of what a business is building. So by me pushing myself to create content, to I've realized that the best structure is building a blog, and the blog is my guide to send it to social media, to make ads, to get the copy for my webpage, to get the copy for my Instagram posts. And it's something that now I give away to my clients. That's how I'm translating core. And yeah, I open up the stage for magical words of Hania.
Thank you so much for sharing, Pape. Powerful testaments, man.
I appreciate. Yes. I don't know. I was thinking that it's summertime for whatever reason. Wrong reason, because it's cold here. This is why I joined late. I want to come back to your core. I did core with a little with Patricia and also with Clifford. And I'm doing core right now to some companies focused in life science, because this is my area. And have not been difficult to join with the companies, because the main question was, we want to increase revenues, honey. We are not selling what we want to sell. We don't know how to reach the market. You see, I mean, so that was very clear statements from the customers. And they asked me, do you know something how we can change our strategy? And then we started to understand what they are doing. And then I suggest core to realize, to create alignment, to provide clarity. And people very easy say yes. Of course, it's very important to have communication with the people that I have, I have built before. And secondly, they trust me. So I'm a very well-known person for them. But my first question, or the first claim coming from the customer, was, we don't have revenues, we don't have contact with our customers, what is happening? Do you have any idea? And then I start to provide my ideas. I say, I'm doing like Jose said, first start small, build your own platform, build your name. When I did core with Clifford, also Clifford helped me to clarify me, and was really magic, because coming from the wars, I don't know, I understood better my constellation, and then I know that I was, but I have not defined myself. And I did with core. So now I know that I'm a hybrid between science and business. Was for me clear before, but I was not conscious, not aware about it. And this is something that core provides. And this is the magic of the core. You start with your own words, be aware. And now this is my experience. I'm running a core for 3 companies now. And let us see which is the outcome. I hope these companies could increase revenues, because if they do, so I mean, this is going to be 100% success, and I base the best marketing for core. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing, Hania. And for those of you that don't know, Hania is actually based in Germany. So, it's one of the things that I really love about these calls is that we're all in crazy places all over the world, and these principles all align, they all work. And it's because they're based around humans, they're based around, you know, how we all operate regardless of our cultures. Um, and I think this is one of the things that makes it really, really powerful. So, guys and ladies, thank you so much for today's session. Thank you so much for everyone's input. I know everybody learned something. I'm always learning something new from you guys. And I'm actually going to be really excited to watch this replay because there's a lot of really powerful insights in this. So it is now 12:29. So I'm going to bid everybody adieu. Thank you so much for the call, y'all. And as always, I want you guys to remember that you guys are loved, you guys are powerful, and you guys are limited only by your imagination. Peace, y'all.
Sorry, I have a question. I went to sleep late night, very late. So I mean, for 2 days, and you was in the podcast, and I was listening your podcast a little because here is 3 o'clock morning or 3 o'clock. You recording the podcast also?
Clubhouse. You're talking about Clubhouse. We
Yes,
haven't
I'm
started
talking
recording
about.
Clubhouse. Yeah, we haven't.
Ah, because I love it when you say that you hope in the future company don't identify them with the logo instead with the brand.
I did say that,
But
yeah.
when
I
you
did say a lot of
this
crazy
one,
things in Clubhouse because it's not being recorded. So I'm like, I'm gonna say it out loud. So
it's
yeah,
amazing.
let's talk
I say,
about that
oh,
topic.
yes,
The future
okay.
of branding is what we're talking about in Clubhouse. So make sure on Mondays, if you do have an iPhone or Clubhouse is coming out for Android already. So that's the conversation hosted by Keone. We're just talking about that. And we want to make you guys the stars on it and like have you guys talk about it. So, you know, Pape, Hanya, like Cassie, you know, Patricia, Bjorn, whoever comes in, or Jaja, it's so nice to see you. Just hop on the Clubhouse on Mondays at 5:30, and we'll share the stage and have discussions.
Yes, but try to record it because it doesn't match my time. I mean, I'm the only one, doesn't matter. But it was very interesting to listen you there because you got, I don't know, real inspired in your words. It was very interesting.
Yeah, we're gonna get there. We're gonna record it. We're looking at the equipment to do it, but for now, just show up live and see you guys tomorrow. See you guys Friday, actually.
Okay, thank
Cheers,
you.
y'all.
Bye-bye.
And just a reminder for those of you that are on Design Therapy, I posted the worksheet in the Facebook thread. So yeah, it's a little bit of homework, but it's really not homework, it's self-work.
Remember,
so, yeah.
What is the hat that your hero would wear on his journey or her journey? On Friday, we want to see begin to become your own hero character-wise. Yeah. It doesn't have to be a hat. It could be an article of clothing. It could be something.
Yeah, very good. I love your post in Facebook mentioning this therapy for Friday. That's very beautiful.
Thank you so much, honey.
Super Ranger, Super Marcus, I don't know.
Alrighty, guys.
Okay.
Everyone, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Love you.